Welcome all. In this video I will explain member functions. And before we start with member functions, I first will shortly recap classes. So in the previous video we have seen classes, and we can use a class to create an own data type. And in this video we will create an own class of a rectangle, and in this data type, so in this class, we can store the width and the height of a rectangle. And to create a class rectangle, we have to start working outside the main function. And we start by typing class and then the name rectangle. So this is the name of our class. Then curly brackets, and you end here with a semicolon. And now between the curly brackets, you have to type private colon public colon. And for now you do not have to know what this exactly means, but you have to know that you write the code under public. And we start by typing the so-called member functions. And the member variables. And what member variables are the properties of the rectangle. So in this case, the width and the height of the rectangle. So in this case we have two member variables, so the width and the height, and both of these member variables are of data type double because the width and the height is a decimal number. So this is the implementation of our class. So again, we have a class rectangle with two member variables, width and height. So if we create a variable of data type rectangle, we can store the width and the height of the rectangle in this variable. So to create a variable of data type rectangle, we have to start with the data type, which is rectangle in this case, and then a variable name, so for example R. And now to store data in the width and the height, we have to type the name of this variable R, so R dot. And then you chose the member variable which you want to give a value. So for example, we chose here height, and we can assign the value 5 to height. This way. The same we can do for the width. For example, the value 6. So again, on line 19, we create a variable R of data type rectangle. And when we create a variable of data type rectangle, we can store the width and the height of a rectangle in this variable. And to store a value in the width and height of the rectangle, we have to use this syntax here. So you type the name of the variable, so R in this case, then you type a dot, and then you choose the member variable which you want to assign a value to. Yeah, so for example height, and then you type is 5. So the height of this rectangle R here is now 5. So besides member variables, we have also something as called member functions. And member functions are functions that we can apply on variables of data type rectangle. So when we create here a variable of data type rectangle, we can also apply functions to this variable, and we call these functions member variables. And an example of a function that we can apply to a rectangle is, for example, for calculating the area of the rectangle. And to implement the member functions, we can use the same syntax as we have seen for regular functions. And to implement a regular function, we have seen that we have to start by defining a data type, and this data type represents the data type of the output of the function. Then we have to give the function a name, then rounded brackets, and between the rounded brackets we place the inputs of the function, and then curly brackets, and between the curly brackets we define the implementation of the function. So in this case, we want to create a function that calculates the area of the rectangle, and this function must also return this area. So therefore we chose for the data type a double, Yeah, because the area is a number, a decimal number, and therefore we use the data type double. So the name of the function is area, and the input we keep empty because a member function is part of the class here, and therefore the member function here has access to the width and the height of the class. So we do not have to give the function as an input the width and the height. Yeah, so this function here has already access to the width and the height of the rectangle. So again, we do not have to define these as an input of the function because we already have access to them. So now we have to implement the function, which is a single statement, namely return and then width times height. Yeah, so to calculate the area of a rectangle, we have to multiply the width times the height of the rectangle, and the result is returned from this function. So this is how we implement the member function area. So again, the goal of this function is to calculate the area of the rectangle. And now in our main program, we can use this member function. So here we already created a variable r of data type rectangle. And now on this variable, I can apply this member function. And to do so, we have to type the name of the variable, so r in this case, so r, then dot, and then you see here the member function area. Yeah, so you can choose that option. Then you have to place rounded brackets. However, since we do not have any inputs for this function, you can leave these rounded brackets empty. And then a semicolon. Yeah, so what happens here is that we call the function area here, and this function returns the area of the rectangle. However, we do not do anything with it yet. So what we can do is print it on the console, the result of the function. And therefore we have to use cout like this. Yeah, so now on line 28, we print the outcome of the function area. So let's run this program. And you see it prints 30. Yeah, because on line 25 and 26 we assigned the values 5 and 6 for the height and the width. And 5 times 6 is 30. And therefore on line 28 it prints 30. So what we can do now is, for example, change the height. So therefore we can use the syntax r.height is 10, for example. And then we can print the area of the rectangle again. And now on line 32, the height is 10. The width here is still 6. So now I expect it to print 60. And what you see here, it prints indeed 60. So we can also make multiple rectangles. So we make another variable of data type rectangle. So for example, R2. With the same syntax as here above, we can assign a value to the height and the width of the rectangle. Note that you have to use R2 here, yeah, because we want to change the width and the height of R2. So therefore you have also to use the variable name R2 here. So for example, 15 and 12. And now you can also print the area of R2 using the same syntax as we have seen on line 32. So R2.area, rounded brackets, and then we print a new line in the end. Yeah, so now you see it prints 180 at the end because 15 times 12 is 180. So that's it for this video. In this video we have seen member functions.